Welcome to Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu podcast, episode 020. This is Stephen Little, and I'm here with
Josh Straussberger,
JP Dinnell.
Good evening, men.
Yes, it is.
good evening.
How are y'all?
Good. I'm good. Updating my notes real quick.
Good.
Bummed Isaac isn't here again, but you guys covered down on. I think I missed 2 in a row. 3, 2.
I missed 2 in a row.
Yeah, you did, scrub.
Yeah, I missed.
Yeah, whatever. Dang it.
That's called pride. That's bad.
If you're watching on YouTube, you know what's about to happen.
We're going too wide on Pink Mist here?
Yeah, you know what's about to happen. If you are listening, this is for you.
3, 2, 1. Mark.
Ooh.
And that was for Danny.
I'm drinking Pink Mist today.
It's only the second best flavor.
Pink lemonade.
I'm mixing.
Listen. J&JJ 10 saves you 10% on all of your Jocko Fuel needs, because it is a need. All the purchases, you're going to save 10%, and you're going to support our ministry. Protein powder, creatine, greens, joint warfare. They have all kinds of amazing vitamin D, all the supplements you need to bridge the gap, plus all the made in America clothing that you need to not only be prepared on the mats of justice, but to be prepared on the streets, because they have the best clothing all the way around, whether it's training and running, whether it's no-gi, gi, jeans and boots, hoodies, whatever it is, you got to get in the game and support American manufacturing and American workers. J&JJ 10 saves you 10%.
Also, it's getting close to being hunting season.
Yes.
They're hunting line. I'm still wearing my hunting pants again. So they're comfortable.
Jealous.
And I got the shorts coming. Anyways, whatever. We talked about that last time, losers. Not the losers that are listening.
All the time.
These
two.
These two.
You're
Dude, they're
living
so
in these
comfortable.
pants.
Bro, I was wearing them earlier today, and I was like, why am I wear them often now, and I'm like, I'm not going to take them off. They're that comfortable. But anyways,
Last time I
hunting
asked you
season's
just
coming
to
up.
show us the top, and you never did. Just a little bit.
I don't know. It's weird. Anyways, I might. I'm drinking 2 goes at once right now, so I might.
Crack it stone cold style. Let's go. I'm telling you, I'm going to shotgun one day on here.
Hey, real fast, we want to thank our sponsor. I just want to make sure to do that. This Collective office here in Coppell, Texas. So if you're in the DFW area, the Collective office is a co-working space where you can have a private space or shared space to come work at. Also, coffee lounge, mini first class conference rooms. So if you're new, if you've ever been to a co-working space, you know how the amenities are rich and how it's an amazing place to come work. If you haven't been, it's an awesome place. It's almost like, think of a country club and a coffee shop and a business office.
Come on.
All had a little baby there, and that's what you're left with the co-working space in Coppell.
It just makes you feel fancy when you go there.
Yes, absolutely. It's a great place to network and to work. You know, you're not going to have the same expenses you would, having to pay for your own office if you were to go start something up from the ground. And if you were to have the amenities that they offer, you'd have to pay for it. You know, it could be very cost effective.
I like the aspect of the safety and the safety and the security aspect of that. You know, I work from home with what I do at Echelon Front, and then like the other businesses that I'm a part of, you know, there's going to be times where you're going to have business meetings with different people. I don't want them coming to my house. Not that they're bad people, it's just I don't want people knowing where I live. I don't want them coming to my house unless you're like super close to me. Like, no offense, like I just don't want you in my home.
Yeah.
It's just the way I operate. Other people, they're amazing. That Southern hospitality, it's a real thing. I love those people. I'm not that person.
Sure.
So
Same way.
I think the good middle ground there that keeps it at a high level.
I'm not even that friendly with my neighbors.
Steven's never even invited. I don't even know where Steven lives.
Another year or 2, bro.
Okay, I'm working up to it.
Yeah.
I make sure to, like, when I load my guns, I make sure to, like, have them out of the cases. I'm just saying, like, there's some neighbors, like, I'm nice. I'm friendly, but I'm like, you're not coming in my house friendly.
No,
Like,
no,
and get off my driveway too.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So you better not look over
The
here
house
either.
part, I'm not joking about. The driveway was a joke.
Sometimes. Depends on your neighbor.
No, don't park in front of my driveway. Anyways,
We could talk about my neighbor. Never mind.
yeah. So I think the collective space is an awesome middle ground. You work from home. You have to have some business meeting, or you're meeting up with like multiple people. And let's just say, like, hey, another real aspect, like outside the safety and security, like, oh, cool, I don't want people coming into my house. And also, my house isn't set up for like group meetings in my office, my home office. It could be, but it's not going to be. I'm not going to outfit my home office to have people there, because that's never going to happen.
No.
But I could go to one of these collective spaces and have a meeting and have a couple business meetings there, and it keeps it to where it's like, cool, neutral grounds, everything's awesome. The other aspect is like, it allows my family to maintain their privacy. My wife's not feeling like, oh, we have to have the house spotless because,
Clients are coming
yeah,
over.
exactly. So that alone, for my wife not to have to be stressed out, and the kids have to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think it's an awesome business model and idea, and we obviously appreciate their support of the podcast. It's huge.
And Coppell is very strategically located, on that side of the Metroplex, to where it's very accessible to Dallas and other places, even Fort Worth.
Yeah. So I know we've said this multiple times, and I just want to reiterate our thankfulness for those that sponsor. And we have now people that, Isaac talked about it a few podcasts ago. I think it was like 3 or 4 podcasts ago. Or maybe it was 2 or 3, I don't know. Anyways, 2 or 3, maybe 4 ago, about people having the ability to donate directly to the ministry to support it, whether it's for them, it's a tithe, it's an act of worship. Because I know we have a few people that I've got messages from, as you guys have as well. It's like, hey, I don't have a church yet, but I listen to this every week. It's helping me get back on the path. I'm trying to find a church, and they want to give to the ministry to help support the ministry. Like, we have an event, in Castle Rock, Colorado, that we had to travel for. And, that cost money for us to be able to go do that event and everything else like that. And we have other events in the future that we're going to be doing as well, that we're going to be having to travel for. And it helps with that. Like, when people tithe and donate to the ministry and sponsor these things, it's not coming into our pockets.
No, right.
No, this is going to the
It's amazing
ministry.
too when you talk about like using funds to get up to Castle Rock. So what's neat is we have some brothers that we're in community with, Mike Bowen, JMO, Josh Kingery. We've got some brothers that we know that have done Pursuit. Josh Kingery became a friend by being a podcast listener, and then he came to Pursuit with us.
Yes.
By the way, just recently got his purple belt, so shout out, Josh. Proud of you, bro. Proud of your hard work. But,
You can't give it back. I tried.
he came, to Pursuit, and we've just remained in community with him. But so what's neat about this is we're going to go up and we're going to model our monthly event that we do here in DFW in Castle Rock, Colorado, which is right in between Denver and Springs, kind of accessible from both. And they're going to now start running regular events. So there's now going to be a whole community that's going to be bringing jiu-jitsu practitioners together regularly that are also ministering the gospel to people and taking Jesus right there to that community. So it's pretty cool that we're going to be actually, duplicating what we're doing here in DFW, and it's now going to start living in Castle Rock, Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, actually, this, it'll already have happened when this comes out.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Because of,
So-
scheduling.
Yeah. So it's going to be awesome. So when you guys listen to this, it's going to be awesome because we'll have already done it. Your support supports that, and all the future ones as well. So, what do you guys want to talk about?
I thought of something else on
Looking
the
at Bible
Origin
verses?
website.
Yeah.
You can buy maple syrup. on
Yes,
the
you
Origin
can.
website.
From Maine?
From Maine.
I love maple things.
Right? I don't know. I'm hungry all of a sudden, and it just.
I
We
know.
talk about all the good stuff on there, but you can get maple syrup.
Yeah, I'm peeking. I'm gonna share scripture. I'm peeking at it, but we'll save it for a few minutes.
A little teaser.
Let's talk some jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
right? I think something that was a good idea. As we were chatting earlier, Lucas kind of wanted to hear this because our producer, he's done some jiu-jitsu in the day, and he had a great idea, and it's kind of prepping for competition. And as JP, Josh, and I were talking, we're like, man, none of us are like consistent competitors. Like some of the guys in our gym are professors, and a lot of the guys we train with, I mean, they are competing monthly. Sometimes
some of them
weekly, and more than once a week. If it's like if they can, and so we feel like we're not very qualified to do it. But he's like, "Well, have you ever done that?" Of course. Well, JP also has a history of preparing for war, but then also, which is definitely, I mean, getting your mindset right to go to IBJJF tournament is nothing compared to getting prepped for war.
I mean, it's kind of the same because all those jiu-jitsu are saying preparing for war. War on the mats. I'm a shark. You don't know how to swim. This is my wait. What's that saying again? I'm just kidding.
You're in my ocean.
Yeah. And then they call jiu-jitsu
fights
matches a fight. You're like, no, it's not.
Prepping for my fight. Yeah. Well, and to that, you actually used to fight too.
I did fight actual MMA.
Yeah,
that's why I tease people that say my fight, and I'll just make competition because it's a jiu-jitsu competition.
Can you get punched in the teeth?
Yeah, until you're getting actually hit, it's not a fight.
This is why I shank people when I roll, so they understand the difference. Yes, you can choke me out in a jiu-jitsu match.
Yes.
So if you're rolling with Josh and you ever hear him go and you feel something poking you, that's his thumb
acting like a knife.
Acting like a prison shank.
Yes.
I like it.
And yes, I always have one on me. I keep that thing on me.
No, Josh, you used to compete a lot before you moved to Texas.
I competed a good bit at white and blue belt, but not like I did one IBJJF ever, so it was a lot of local competitions,
which is awesome. Yeah,
AGF came through. Nagas were big, like one of the biggest ones that would come through. You never got the sword though.
You know, I was just thinking, like, yeah, we can talk about what we've done to prepare for like literally the handful of jiu-jitsu competitions we've done between us, but I mean, I can talk about the aspect of like preparing for MMA fights and the cutting of the weight and all that stuff. But if you really think about it, I mean, the three of us, we've all learned a lot from our professors and instructors and training partners that compete all the time. I mean, just watching guys like Weston and Anthony Kronk and Trey's wife Victoria and Formiga and all the other people that I'm forgetting to mention right now, Rodrigo and Monique, like watching them prepare and just them train, it's always awesome. And I love it. And
well, Josh and I actually we were doing some privates with Rodrigo leading into some of our comps, so we actually had him prepare us for a competition, which was kind of cool. The short of it to me was the way we did it, and I don't know if this is how Rodrigo does it or this was just our spin with it, but like we went in with a very solid but loose game plan. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, this is our option A, and then this is our option B. Kind of like this is what we want to happen, but if it goes bad, here's how we react to it. And then outside of that, it was like we just went in kind of like trying to like with an open mind, loose, and try not to overstress everything. Like we knew what we wanted to do. We had a game plan. We had a backup plan, but it was just go in and play your game,
Yeah. Try to get and what Steven's talking about, we were starting from standing. We had like things we would look for, a couple of options depending on what they gave us. But yeah, like trying to get to our game, but not overcomplicating it. I think.
And then, hey, if this doesn't go the way I want it to go, where do I end up? Okay, now how do I work out of this to get back to my game?
Right.
I like that. It reminds me of like what we do for guys in training in the SEAL teams is, we'd create these scenarios that they would have to plan missions around. And what some of like the junior inexperienced leaders or junior officers would say when they're like planning out that mission and briefing it to us, we would try to like poke holes in it. We would ask them different questions like, hey, what are you going to do right now? If this was to happen, what would you do? If this was to happen, what would you do? And a lot of their answers were, well, the situation will dictate and we'll react according to that. And, there is that aspect in jiu-jitsu where you can get away with that. Well, if he does this, I'll do this. If he does this, I'll do this. The problem with that is if they're better at doing that than you are reacting,
that's right.
You're allowing them to dictate the situation. And we don't want that. And when we were preparing guys in the SEAL teams for combat, it's like, no. Hey, we don't allow the situation to dictate. We dictate the situation. And how do you dictate the situation? By what you were just saying. Yeah. We're going to train. We're going to plan, and we're going to go out, and we're going to take action on our plan. Now, is it good to have some backups? Yeah, for sure. Hey, if I'm doing this and it's not working, I'm going to switch to this. If that's not working, I'm going to switch to this. But I want to be the one driving the pace. You look at somebody like Anthony Kronk, Ryan Kramer, when those guys are out there competing, Russell Roberts, those guys, they're Weston, they're driving the pace. They're driving the pace. For me, all those guys, Formiga, Rodrigo, all the guys I listed before, all the guys I'm forgetting to say right now that we train with, that compete, they all dictate the situation, because they're driving the pace.
I just think of, when you say that, I think of our professor Formiga, because I was just thinking, a lot of people listening to this don't know who any of those guys are, except most of you, if you pay attention to competition jiu-jitsu, have probably heard Formiga, as he's like a 9-time world champion and a bunch of other
12-time Pan Am's champ.
Right. Yeah, he's incredible. And so most people know him. What he's known for, his butterfly sweep.
Yes.
His butterfly sweep and his over-the-head sweep from butterfly. This is what's crazy to me, because also when we're talking about our competitions, we're talking about white, blue, purple belt competitions, but
scrub
between us, right?
Scrub level.
When we're talking about black belt world championships, you're talking about, it's now a game of inches a lot of times, right? And so one of the things that just blows my mind, talking about dictating the situation, when Formiga's name it coexists with butterfly, like he's known for butterfly. Yet he goes into the highest competitions in the world and he gets butterfly sweeps.
He hits it on everyone.
Every single, no matter who the competitor is. And he does it so calmly and so relaxed and from so many different scenarios. And so when you look at that, it's like, talk about just truly putting your tempo on the match. Like, he is someone out of all the people we referenced that if you're tuned in, you could really know. You could go YouTube him and watch, but it's just incredible to think about someone that's just spent so much time mastering their craft. But not only that, he's competed for so long, right, that he's just, I don't know.
Well,
yeah. Well, he dictates legitimately everything.
I think we benefit from that even as non-competitors. Essentially,
I'm not a competitor.
As we've competed but aren't competitors. But
Correct.
as you get closer to those competitions, man, they run those camps. But even in the normal classes, you feel that pace with all the competitors. If you roll with somebody the week of a competition, now those last couple of days, they're probably just getting some movement in. But as they're getting dialed in, I mean, they're pushing the pace in our gym.
It's insane.
And you can feel it. Like, it's a noticeable difference.
Right.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, I mean,
you can take that scenario to your business life. You know that mindset to your business life, your spiritual life. Like, you can apply that same philosophy of prepping for something and dictating the pace, right? That's a business launch. It's you finally have decided to get serious about your spiritual walk, right? There's a quote that we talk about at Pursuit. It's so powerful, man. It'll hit you square in the teeth, but it's a theologian that says it. His name starts with a T, but I'm drawing a blank. Like a Tozer or Towser. Lucas will probably tell me in a minute because he's like a living encyclopedia. But he says every man is as close to God as he wants to be.
That's awesome.
So how have you dictated the pace, right? So I actually had no intention of talking about this fast, but Hebrews 5:11. There is much more we would like to say about this, but it is difficult to explain, especially since you are spiritually dull and don't seem to listen. You have been believers so long now that you ought to be teaching others. Instead, you need someone to teach you again the basic things about God's word. You are like babies who need milk and cannot eat solid food. For someone who lives on milk is still an infant and doesn't know how to do what is right. Solid food is for those who are mature, who through training have skills to recognize the difference between right and wrong. So if you heard that and you got offended at all, you need to hear it again. There is much more we would like to say about this, but it is difficult to explain, especially since you are spiritually dull and don't seem to listen. You have been believers so long now that you ought to be teaching others. Instead, you need someone to teach you again the basic things about God's word. You are like babies who need milk and cannot eat solid food. For someone who lives on milk is still an infant and doesn't know how to do what is right. Solid food is for those who are mature, who through training have the skill to recognize the difference between right and wrong. It's crazy. I picked that, and then we started talking about this because
Coincidence,
It's
right?
one of those coincidences for sure.
I think it was A.W. Tozer.
Yes,
yeah,
thank
that's
you.
the one.
I'm just kidding. I didn't think that on
You
my
Googled
own.
it?
No, Lucas is in a group
A.W.
text.
Tozer.
And even put the pronunciation.
Yeah.
for the
Oh yeah.
Neanderthals
Oh
out
yeah,
here.
for sure.
A.W.
I would have been like,
Tozer.
I would have been Towser.
Towser, man.
Towser,
he's
man.
he's a theologian, right, Lucas? Yes. Yeah, and so that's, every man is as close to God as he wants to be. And so you're talking about dictating the pace in a jiu-jitsu match. I just quickly had the correlation of you have been dictating the pace and the tone of your spiritual life. So straight up, you are dictating it because God is a gentleman. He stands at the door knocking and waiting, but he never kicks the door in, right? So he's standing there waiting, and you get to dictate the pace. So how have you been stewarding that lately is my question. Are you on milk? Do you still need someone else to teach you? Or are you on solid food? Now, maybe you're like, dude, I found the Lord yesterday. Well, awesome. Like, dude, you should be on milk, but you know that you need to be dictating the pace as you go. But if any of you are like some of us here who've been walking with the Lord for a long time, I hope you're on some solid food.
Yeah. And what's cool about this is it's universal to all aspects of our life.
That's right.
Like every man is as close to their wife as they want to be, as their kids as they want to be, as their friends as they want to be, as their parents as they want to be. Like, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Now, obviously,
you do have some outside circumstances that can, dictate those, because those people and those situations aren't as faithful as God, who will never turn
for
his
sure.
back
I'm not
on
taking.
you.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying to. But what I'm saying is, just like, hey, you don't have a good relationship with your kids.
You can change it.
Go fix it.
Yeah.
You don't have a good relationship with your parents. Go fix it. You don't have a good relationship with your spouse. Go fix it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you can at least work
Yes.
to fix those things.
Yes.
Like,
you can be pursuing it,
yes,
putting your ego aside, working on fixing it.
yeah,
Yeah. And you know what's going to help fix those things more than anything?
your relationship with God.
That's right.
And the closer you are with the Lord, because He's going to give you the understanding. He's going to give you the words that you need. He's going to give you the peace, the patience, the comfort,
You're
the
gonna
understanding,
you're gonna
the
walk,
empathy.
You're gonna walk different. You're gonna talk different, and that person on the other end of that situation is just gonna go, wait a second, you're not the same person.
And it may still take a little time, but they'll
Oh,
start seeing
it's
it.
going to take some time
Depending on
for sure.
how bad
The
you-
damage that you've
Yeah.
created.
Yeah.
That's right.
You have 5 years of damage in your relationship just because you're like, hey, I'm sorry, I want to make things better. It ain't going to happen overnight.
No.
You got to. It's going to take some time, and you're going to have to show people through your actions. Which that's a cool thing with the Lord is like His grace and His understanding and forgiveness. Like He said, like before, like, man, we don't earn it. I'm sorry, we don't deserve it. We can't earn it, but
can't buy it.
We can't buy it. Like, it's ours. We can't buy it, but
You can only have that by receiving it, right? And that's what's so unique. And I think a lot of us, it's easy to feel like, even though we know we can't earn it, it's easy to get caught up in almost that spirit of religion of like, we got to do good, and you should do good, but not to earn it.
explain the spirit of religion.
So if you've read the Bible, or like, I really think watching The Chosen gives a great visual depiction of this. I absolutely love The Chosen. It's let the New Testament and Jesus come to life for me so much. You can get it. You got to download the app on like Angel Studios on your phone or on streaming devices, and you can watch it for free. It's really cool. That whole project's really neat. But the spirit of religion would be like the Pharisees in the Bible. Everyone's pretty familiar, should be familiar with the Pharisees. You've heard about it, right? It's the people that look really religious. And in the time, it's funny because when we read the Bible as Christians now, we read the Bible and we see the Pharisees with a slight against them. But in reality, if you were living in Bible times, the Pharisees were the church. The Pharisees were the pastors. The Pharisees were the deacons in the church, the apostles, the missionaries, right? all the people that we look up to, the worship leaders, right? Those were the Pharisees, so to speak. And Jesus was the crazy street preacher that lived in a tent that was like, they were waiting on the Messiah to come and lead an army to take over Rome. And he's talking about peace and love and loving your neighbor and turning your cheek. And they were expecting a warrior, right? A commander of an army. And they got this guy that was living in a tent, like, who was a carpenter. And he was the weirdo, preaching everything that, like, was different than what they'd been taught. Right? And he's healing people on the Sabbath, but he's not breaking the Sabbath. Like, so there's this whole thing with Jesus. And so the religious spirit is really nasty because it's disguised as church. It's disguised as doing good. It's disguised as, but it's anything that distracts from the fact that we can't earn what God gives us. Now, when he comes into our life and he saves us and he changes us, you're going to have a heart change and you're going to start the fruit. We talked about this in the last episode. The fruit of your life, right? The evidence of your life is going to start changing because he is changing you. But it's not that you can do something to earn it, right? And so I think also a lot of people that are self-critical, you know, like if you're really self-critical, that can be a good thing, but it can be a bad thing to the point of why are you criticizing yourself so much? Like when I say it can be a good thing, you know, like we always want to be improving. Self-improvement is a good thing. But why are you doing it? Like, so you dig deep on that. Are you self-critical and self-improving because you feel like you have to do that to be good enough to deserve something or earn something, right? So there's 1,000 directions we could take that conversation, but yeah, I don't even remember the exact context that I shared it in, but the religious spirit is anything that can detract from the fact that we cannot earn what the gift that Jesus gave us of grace.
Yeah. That's good. I haven't ever heard it explained that way, so I understood it. I understood it because of pursuit and understanding like the spirit of religion but like that breakdown, I think, is really good, especially for our listeners, because the spirit of the religion can creep in and it can really take away from our walk with God. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. Well, and there's a fine line too, because you've got to be able to just use some wisdom, which you can ask Jesus for and the Holy Spirit for, because you know, we want to live by the law and do these good things, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you live only by the law,
right,
and you don't have the spirit of Jesus, that's when the spirit of religion can kind of creep in because you're living like the Pharisees. But
I always feel like the spirit of religion definitely has a large element of like ego in it as well.
Yeah.
It's more of a, especially if you compare it to the Pharisees in the Bible, it's a, look at me, I'm doing all these laws, I'm doing all these things. And I think there's that passage where they're outside praying and the Pharisee is like, you know, well, thank God I'm doing all these things right and I'm not like this guy over here. Right. And then you got the sinner that's just a regular person. He's like, you know, help me, a sinner.
Well, yeah. And here's something, anything that makes someone feel uncomfortable. If someone were to walk into a church and they were to feel uncomfortable, you know, this is going to ruffle feathers, but wearing a baseball hat or like whatever, like if someone is, I'm just saying, like if someone, I'm trying to think how to communicate this, Lucas, JP, Josh, you know,
I know what you're
like,
trying to say.
Here's the point. The point is like, you can come to Jesus wherever you are in your life, however you are in your life, right? And he is there to meet you, whether it's rock bottom or the best day of your life. And anything that tells you otherwise could be like the religious spirit in operation, right? You know, I mean, I think so many people, like, do we want to, is it good to present, like, is it a good thing to maybe like put on our nice Sunday clothes and go to church? Yeah, that's great.
There's
like,
an element
to present ourselves
reverence.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you think that you have to do that to meet Jesus, and it's just one little tiny element, you know?
Yeah.
Again, I'm trying not to like wade off into water that's so deep we can't come back. But I don't know.
We got a life raft. Let's go.
Yeah,
got my waders out.
You know, I think the point is like to just to look and like go read the New Testament. Like if you're curious about this, go read the New Testament and think about the Pharisees and study them for yourself and study Jesus and put yourself in the perspective of, well, wait a second. In that culture, the Pharisees were the ones that were seen as doing right, and Jesus was kind of the weirdo. Does it make sense?
No, it does, for
Because
sure.
I think when we read it, we look through that lens of like, oh, everything Jesus did was right, because of course it is, and we have history to look back on, and these guys were whack jobs,
right.
and they're pious,
and also
they're
we're
upright,
not
self-righteous.
We're not from the Jewish culture either, so like a lot of their laws and their
Correct.
even still we don't
Correct.
follow. So
Yeah, interesting. I just wanted to expand upon it a little bit. Just,
No, I think it was good.
you said it was good, and it opened up some doors and just thoughts, I guess, in general.
It's something you're not going to see at Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, bro, because we're all sweating on each other. And
Well, what's crazy is what I think. I'm pretty sure he listens. Father Stokes, he comes to a lot of
Every
musters, yeah, and I think he's also been to like a battlefield review. And anyways, awesome guy, does jiu-jitsu, and he made a post today or yesterday. Everything's a blur to me with this move. I apologize, but and just traveling again for work. But it was. He made a post. He goes, "A priest and a stoner both walk into a jiu-jitsu gym." You know the rest of the story. It is something about like, all right, we're all from different backgrounds and beliefs, but you know what's cool is like jiu-jitsu brings people together. Like I've literally seen drug dealers rolling jiu-jitsu with cops, and they're whooping those cops, you know, and then you see the cops whooping the drug dealers, and it's just like, it's jiu-jitsu, man. You know, that's what I love about immersion camp is you have 3 to 4 to this year, I don't know how many people, but anyways, it like oversold. It's going to be crazy. But over 400 people, and there's 0 issues at camp. 0. There's never an issue. There's no fights.
Yeah.
There's no arguments.
no one has enough energy to fight them. Sure.
But, you know, there's just, like, there's none of that. There's no, you know, that's what's cool about jiu-jitsu is it allows people to come together from all different backgrounds and all different beliefs and just be like, hey, you know what? Like, we have some commonality here. We like to train. And I think it's the reason behind that is like jiu-jitsu is such a humbling sport. Mm-hmm. It's a humbling sport. And if you're not remaining humble, it's just...
There's no room for you.
Yeah, there's no room for you. And
what's Eddie Bravo call it? A douchebag filter?
Does he? I mean, that's a good filter. Yeah.
Sorry, Lucas. Is that one not allowed?
Dude, I love that word.
Okay.
That's my favorite. That's
Jake, don't say that.
Yeah, our kid.
Kids shouldn't say that, but we do have. There was one pursuit where a theme, not the rest of them, but one pursuit was like one of the leaders was talking, and it was just like there was this breakthrough moment for some guys, but he was like, "We're all douchebags." Yeah. At the end of the day,
when it's fitting,
and that's
it's
by the way,
fitting.
that's the opposite of that spirit of religion. The spirit of religion always has the right thing to say. Mm-hmm. It sounds like Christianese. They know all the churchy words, all the things, but like. Are you actually sitting there living like, are you tapped into the heart of Jesus? And is that your motivation, is to love Jesus and love people? Or is your motivation to tell everyone how it should be and always have the right answer and to say all the right things? And in jiu-jitsu, we know it kicks that out because that culture, you know, take the spiritual side of it, that culture is not there like what JP was describing already. There's no room for it. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I think a lot of people that have maybe been turned off by that, the spirit of religion or a lot of the other things, were very open to coming to Jesus and jiu-jitsu because they know that this is an atmosphere they're going to be super comfortable in.
I agree.
Definitely agree.
I agree. What else? That's a good verse.
We were what do you guys have anything else to say about it? You know, you're like babies who need milk and cannot eat solid food. For someone who lives on milk is still an infant. You know, what about the part where you need someone training you or you need someone teaching you, but you should actually be teaching someone else because you've been a part of the faith for so long. You should be called into action. You should be out being a positive force, but instead you're still on milk.
Well, I think that applies to a lot of Christians. I know it did for me for a long time. I mean, knowingly keeping yourself on milk. You're just kind of going through the motion. Yeah, I go to church, take my kids to church. But are you plugged in? Or are you?
Do y'all think COVID was a divider? I think it.
For what?
Hold on now.
Meaning, do you think I felt a shift in the general atmosphere of church around that COVID time frame, because a lot of churches shut down, a lot of churches stayed open, but a lot of Christians were like, you know what? I'm like in or out. Like, I think a lot of Christians got serious around that time, and they're like, you know what? Because it was, I feel like before that it was so easy to stay on milk and I'm just going to show up every Sunday. Maybe I'll miss once a month, and because I stayed out too late the night before, but I'm going to have my family in church. I'm going to live on that milk. I'm going to do all the right things. But then COVID kind of like wrecked everyone's world, and people were like either in or out after that.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people realized how complacent they had gotten.
Yeah.
And when something like COVID hits, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's life. Life is going to humble you. Right, so either you stay humbled or you're going to get humbled. That's the nice thing about jiu-jitsu as well. Yeah. It's the nice thing about competition and your training. And if you're going back to what we were talking about on the training aspect, it's like, I mean, if you're doing a real hard training camp for any type of competition, you should be humbled more than you're not. That's the only thing that's going to truly prepare you for that situation. Whether you're preparing for war, whether you're preparing for your job every day as a law enforcement officer or a firefighter or border patrol, or even like doing construction where, hey, that complacency creeps in and someone's going to get killed on a job site.
Right.
I mean, I work with some gas and electric providers, some very large groups, and I was working with them one year, and we're in the middle of running our field training exercise program with them, and we come back from a run, and like there's people like looking at their phones, and you could just see something was wrong. And one of the leaders came up to me and said, "Hey, we just had a fatality on a job site."
Wow.
And this guy had been doing it for over 20 years. What killed him that day? He had legitimately done tens of thousands of times, but he got complacent. He got lazy. And this is not me calling him complacent and lazy. This is from his coworkers, his brothers, his union brothers were like, hey, he got complacent. That's the only reason why he died, And so, we have to remind ourselves to stay humble. And, this is a good reminder of like that growth, like that we should be pursuing as Christians. It's like that constant growth of understanding, like, hey, we don't have it all figured out. And that doesn't mean though that you stay on milk because you realize that you don't have it all figured out. There has to be a dichotomy there of like, hey, you don't have it all figured out. It's a constant pursuit, but you're not going to be able to pursue it if you're not actively growing and expanding and understanding these things.
It's funny you just said that, because I noticed today on your profile on Instagram, you said you are a student and instructor of leadership. And I think that's a perfect way for this. Like we should be while we're teaching, right? You have been believers so long now that you ought to be teaching others. While we're teaching, we're still students.
You should be.
Right.
And I stole that from Leif Babin and Dave Burke.
Well, but I'm just saying, and I'm stealing it from you for this podcast right now, is that that needs to be the attitude. And it's like, the point is, you don't have to have it all figured out. But if you've experienced something, if you've learned something, if you've had an encounter with Jesus, you have something to teach people about. But you should still be learning. Like us, I mean, we're constantly, even though we're on here talking about Jesus, we're learning every single day, or trying to learn every single day, or falling short and picking ourselves up the next day and trying to learn and grasp more about being in the Word and plugging into our churches, and right?
Yeah. So I know, Josh, with the involvement that you have at Echelon Front and, helping out at the musters and helping out the FTXs, I know you and I have actually had actual conversations about this, but you've heard me say, and I did a post yesterday or today about how I said, no, it wasn't yesterday. It was, anyways, it was recently about how knowledge isn't power. Yeah. The application of knowledge is what can make you powerful. Mm-hmm. And it just goes back to this. It's like, hey, you can know the Word inside out, spirit of religion. Like you can quote the Bible, you can quote the verses, you can say, hey, it says this, this, and this. But if you're not actually implementing those principles, then what's the point? There's people that we work with at Echelon Front that legitimately know the book Extreme Ownership that Jocko and Leif wrote better than them. Meaning, hey, if
Remember when you said,
yeah, or they'll be like, hey, on page this second paragraph, it says this, and they're like, okay, I believe you. But yet they have that stuff memorized, but they can't even implement these principles. Literally, they cannot implement these principles into their personal lives. So just because you have the knowledge of this stuff, I mean, guess who else knows the Bible? The devil.
The devil.
Yeah, Satan knows the Bible inside and out. You know, but it's just we have to be careful. Like, and I guess the reason why I'm bringing it up is like we have to be careful of putting limitations on ourselves.
Yeah.
Of saying, well, I don't know enough to do something. No, go do something. Go do something and get yourself off the milk to get yourself to that full food. But also remember that you're never going to know it all.
Never.
And it's a constant, it's like Jiu-Jitsu. It's like your faith with God. I mean, it's like being married and being a parent. I'm not going to know everything ever for being a great, husband, a great father. We were talking about this on the break. I fail constantly with those things, but it's a pursuit. Just like I fail as a Christian. I mean, I was talking with my parents recently. We went and saw them, and it was Father's Day weekend, Sunday. We went to church, and the girls went off to church camp, and then Aiden and Amanda and I went and grabbed lunch down near the Fort Worth area, and then we were just walking around having a great day. And these people, there's these two girls and this guy. They walk by, and Amanda smiles and just smiles at one of the girls, and the girl gave her a super dirty look. And then the dude that was walking with him behind him said something, and I didn't register what was going on. And I look at my wife, and I can tell something's wrong. And she was and she was looking back. I'm like, what? And she told me what they said, bro. I wanted to murder that dude.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything super inappropriate. It wasn't inappropriate. They were just being mean to Amanda for zero reason. Zero reason. And I was sharing that with my dad, and he kind of was just like, man, that's crazy. He I was just sharing it with them, and I was like, yeah, so he's like, you got to, it's a Sunday. You'd already gone to church. It was that same day. I'm like, yeah, it was after church, and I wanted to murder this dude. And my dad wasn't.
Little did that guy know he cheated death that day.
Dude, I am not proud to. And
so let me be very clear. Because even if he trained, his crappy half guard wouldn't have worked.
It didn't matter. I don't care what, dude. I was
shots fired. Shots fired.
And my dad wasn't being judgmental on me as well at all. He was just he was appalled by the whole thing, and he got mad, which I love, just because that's his daughter-in-law, and
I'm
being
getting
protected.
worked up right now.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those things, but my dad was just like, man, he's like, it's just that's crazy, and to me, it was a reminder. Even though we had a great church service, and but the kicker to it is I was getting madder and madder and madder. We got to the truck. So we got to our vehicle, and we get in the vehicle, and I'm sitting there, and I crank it, and the man was like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And take down the sun visor and going. I am visualizing finding that dude.
Yeah, you're thinking, where did he go? Where is he right now?
Oh yeah,
am I gonna pass him walking on the road?
100%.
Right.
And I knew what I wanted to do, and it was not going to be something that represented Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu at all. Maybe the Jiu-Jitsu aspect, but not Jesus at all. And you know what I knew I needed to do?
He's wearing the T-shirt, pulls out his pocket knife, and cuts out that section of the logo.
Just suffocate him with it. Bro, I was mad, and I but I was able to recognize, all right, detach from your emotions. Nothing you're going to do or say is going to be good.
Right.
It's not going to benefit Amanda. It's literally you know what I mean? There's nothing that's going to represent the ministry or me as a Christian man or what I do at Echelon Front or my family. In that moment, my emotions were not telling me to do the right thing at all. I legitimately had to detach from my emotions and be like, all right, logically, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And we talked about praise and worship and the power of praise and worship. And I put on my Walking in Truth playlist and put on a song.
Pursuit.
Yeah. And it really quickly brought me down.
Started de-escalating real quick.
Yeah, and I needed that. So,
and that's not to say if it was a actual threat, the explosive violence is justified. That's different things here.
nothing had been done to her.
Exactly.
So there was nothing that could have justified
Right,
me.
I was just clarifying.
Especially me going in, like, but even in the moment, okay, if I had to defend my wife, for sure, that's different. But, dude, how can there be any justification? That's now premeditated. I literally sat in my vehicle and thought about doing horrible
Right,
things to a
right.
person, and then I went and found them and did those things.
Right.
That's not legal. It's not ethical. It's
Right.
not Christ-like. None of those things.
Right.
So,
I was just.
no, I know.
There's a delineation there.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Now,
We've all been there.
yeah, but for me, it was just again a reminder of, man, I'm going to stumble. I'm going to.
Did you see the video Sean Fowler posted this week?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
amazing. Hanu BJJ on Instagram.
HONU.
BJJ.
Yeah, it was one of our Pursuit brothers, Sean. Have we ever talked about him on this? I don't know. Can we talk about him fully? I know we can.
Let's do it real quick.
Sean Fowler is a brother of ours. We walk in close. He lives in San Diego, but we're all in unity with him. We're in a brotherhood. He, like I said, he graduated Pursuit with a bunch of us, and but he's one of the 3 owners of the ADCC, and he loves everything we're doing with Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, we'll have him on here one day. We actually almost had him on recently when they were in Dallas, but we're gonna coordinate to get him on here. Y'all will love to meet him. But he had a guy pestering people outside of one of his events, and he ended up fighting the guy in the parking lot and posted the video. And he just he tied the guy up, slammed him into a car.
I would say he neutralized.
Yes,
that
correct.
situation.
Foot sweep, took him down.
Knocked
kinda,
the knife out of his hand.
Yeah, kind of a little like neon belly or kind of like a little S mount, neon chest, whatever. Landed a nice strike in the face
And it was just one controlled strike
Yep.
to be like, hey, bro.
and took a knife from the guy.
Yeah. Dude,
You watch this and you're like, dude, Sean would have
he could have murdered the dude.
literally.
But it was just a great example of restraint
Yeah.
Yes.
because he's trained and he's capable.
Right.
And that's
And
why
if you watch too,
cool.
he's so calm. Why? Because he trains all the time.
I was a cool little video.
Yeah.
That dude was a punk.
Yeah. It was.
He
I wanted a couple more shots on him, but,
I-
but I'm only a purple belt, so
Yeah.
I haven't reached that black belt restraint.
it's good. Well,
I appreciate you guys. This has been good.
why don't you pray us out?
All right. Sounds good. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the gifts that you've given us. We just thank you for this opportunity for us to share just our insights, our thoughts, our experiences, our stories, and our love for you and the grace that you've given us, the forgiveness that you've given us. And I just thank you for just ultimately your salvation. And I thank you for just our ability to share your word and your love to people all across the world. And I just pray that this, the right wording falls on somebody when they need it at the right time, and that they know that they can reach out to you, they can pray, they can ask for comfort and peace and hope and love. And those are the things that you're going to provide to them. And I just thank you for the blessings that you've given us as a ministry. And I thank you for the support that all of our listeners have given us. And I just pray that you'll continue to bless them and encourage them. And I just pray that we'll be able to continue to use this platform to give you glory and help grow the kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
This has been Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, episode 020.
Go train.